In the next scene, we see Woo Hee and Soo Jong together in an establishment. Woo Hee is once again acting and cries while pretending she needs a loan, so Soo Jong seems willing to help her with that. However, when Woo Hee goes to the bathroom to wash her face, Soo Jong seems to know the truth. Soon, Chun Myung joins the women, and even Woo Hee is surprised because she wasn't expecting him, but her plan falls apart when Dae Sang appears. It turns out that Soo Jong found Woo Hee's behavior strange. After all, she was a complete stranger interested in the couple, so when she investigated, she decided to call the woman's supposed husband to corner the two of them. But as soon as Woo Hee saw Dae Sang, she left, and when the couple was alone with him, they realized that he had also been deceived. Later, Dae Sang returns to the family restaurant devastated, and Woo Hee was there waiting for him. She apologized, but now the man doesn't want to hear more of his beloved's lies and asks her never to show up in front of him again. Woo Hee says she only did it because of her son Hung Joon, who is very ill, and she owes a lot to the hospital where he is receiving treatment. But in a way, she understands the man's disappointment with her, and upon leaving the restaurant, we see the woman calling her boy and informing him that his grandmother will take care of him for a while, as she will be in another city looking for a better job. Meanwhile, Taekyung was about to sleep when he received a call from Bang Nim, who wants to know what time Yeondu will be home, which worries the doctor since he left her a long time ago in front of the house. Obviously, the man drives to Bang Nim's house so they can think together about where the protagonist might have gone, but soon Dong-wook appears with a letter Yeondu wrote to her family, and now it dawns on everyone that she left. Regardless, Taekyung and Bang Nim don't give up on finding her, so they go to the bus station to look for her. Switching to the protagonist at the location, she ends up taking the same bus as Woo Hee, and the two empathize with each other because they are going through difficult times. Before the bus departs, Yeondu sees her beloved and her mother getting on the vehicles and looking for her, which breaks her heart, but the protagonist had already made her decision. As soon as dawn breaks, Taekyung decides to go home, and in his car, he looks for any letter or goodbye that Yeondu might have left, and he finds one. But the doctor waits to read the words at home, which leave him devastated because Taekyung's biggest fear was being alone, and now, he is once again in that situation, only worse, as his heart is broken. Meanwhile, Madam Eun called Chansik to talk. The lady, as much as she was terrible to Taekyung all her life, can't understand why In-ok is acting this way. She herself says that the woman went through the same thing as Yeondu and did not like it. Later, In-ok goes to the annex to see her son, and after she tells him that the protagonist only ran away to make him give up on her, Taekyung decides to move out of the Gong family residence and distance himself from everyone. The doctor spent the last 4 months looking for Yeondu and contacting everyone around her to see if he could find her. He bought an apartment and decorated the baby's room, leaving everything ready in case she returned one day. But by the 5th month, we can see that the man is losing hope. Switching to the protagonist, the day for Hanol to be born finally arrived, and Woo Hee was beside Yeondu during those hours. Missing her family, the protagonist contacted the only person she was sure would not tell the others that she was back in town, which was Dae Sang. And the man was delighted when he went to the hospital to meet the child. Meanwhile, Junha returned to Korea and intends to stay for a long time this time. After all, now with the birth of his baby, it will be easier for him to find the mother and child. In the next scene, we see Taekyung talking to Bang Nim, and in a way, out of frustration, she takes out her anger on her son-in-law. Bang Nim tells the man to stop waiting for her daughter, and knowing that he won't listen, she says that if Yeondu really loved him, she wouldn't have left. Of course, those words hurt Taekyung, who later at home, decides to put the apartment up for sale and gives up trying to find her. 7 months later, Ji Myung's baby has already been born, so Hyun-woo is going on maternity leave from the clinic, allowing his wife to continue working at the family company. Speaking of her, we see a visit from Sang-hoon, who went to Ji Myung to inform her that he will leave the company to start his own business. Mrs. Han from the pharmacy near the clinic is also moving to another city, so these two people who triggered the couple's relationship will no longer be around. As for In-ok, she arranged some blind dates for her son without his knowledge, which obviously irritated him and made Taekyung go to the Gong family house after a long time, only to tell his mother never to meddle in his life again. Switching to our protagonist, she is invited to be part of a study group, where she will be one of the teachers, and since she needs a better job, Yeon-do considered accepting the offer. So, she went with the man looking for a place to hold the group to see what was available. However, it turns out that one of the places visited is Taekyung's apartment, and the man catches her by surprise in the baby's room he set up. The atmosphere is quite tense between the two, but no answers to their questions come up, and neither do they, so Yeon-do soon leaves because Woo-hee ended up in the hospital after an accident. Woo-hee is fine, she just has to stay under observation for a few days. In the next scene, we meet Ji Myung's baby, who is adorable, and then, in a conversation between Chun Myung and Soo Jong, we discover that the couple gave up trying to have a child after being deceived by Woo-hee. The next day, confused by Yeon-do's return, Taekyung had to see her once more because the protagonist forgot the baby's bag at his house. So the man takes it to the hospital where Yeon-do is caring for Woo-hee, and since babies aren't allowed in that area, Taekyung hears the nurse informing the protagonist. Despite the doctor's efforts not to care, he couldn't ignore the fact that Yeon-do had no one to leave the baby with, so Taekyung said he would take care of her, and since she had no options, the protagonist ended up accepting the help. Switching to a couple, I was curious to see if they were still together. We see that yes, Yoo Myung and Dong-wook are still going strong, and the two enjoy their time with Soo Jae-am. The man even got the job he wanted, and to celebrate, Yoo Myung took the two for some watermelon juice, which is Soo Jae-am's favorite. Meanwhile, we see Soo Jong telling a story to the children's ward at the hospital, and after noticing a boy was very upset, she sat down to talk with him. His name is Hung Jun, and it turns out the child misses his mother, who doesn't visit him often. She doesn't stay as long as she promises during visits, and it's his grandmother who takes care of him daily. The boy goes to his room upset, and the person there to care for him is Yeon-do. This child is Woo-hee's son, and since the woman is bedridden, the protagonist is providing support for her. Hung Jun doesn't know that his mother is in the same hospital as him because Woo-hee didn't want to worry him. Soo Jong was intrigued because before leaving the hospital, she was sure she saw Yeon-do. Thus, at home, the woman mentioned the matter to Madam Moon, who seemed excited to learn that there might be a possibility the protagonist had returned to the city. But since the news spreads quickly in this family, In-ok soon finds out and, predictably, starts to panic just thinking that Taekyung might get back together with Yeon-do. Se-jin was also there when the lady spoke to In-ok, and since she intends to be with the doctor, even though Taekyung has made it clear he doesn't even want to see her, the woman feels her time is running out. Upset, Se-jin told Junha the news that Yeon-do might be back. Later, we see Jang-ho living alone in a small apartment, and his ex-wife visits him to see if she can convince him to return home. In the next scene, we see Junha seeking to learn about his rights as a father with a lawyer friend, but the best chance he has to be with his baby is to reconcile with the mother. Returning to the protagonist, we see that when she went to pick up Hanul at night, Taekyung and the woman finally sat down to talk about the past. Of course, Yeon-do shed some tears and apologized, while the man confessed that every day was torture for him without news of the two. Regardless, after the painful conversation, the protagonist spent the night there because Taekyung didn't want Hanul to wake up from her deep sleep. But the next day, this leads to an unexpected encounter with Madam Moon. As the lady thought Yeon-do might be back, she went to Taekyung to see how he was and to find out if the man had any contact with the protagonist, which resulted in Madam Moon meeting Yeon-do herself in her grandson's apartment. Of course, the lady didn't quite believe the story they told about how they met again, even though it was true. Nevertheless, Madam Moon offered Yeon-do a ride and fell in love with her baby. Before the protagonist got out of the vehicle, the lady demanded that she note her number down, because even though Madam Un wouldn't admit it, she missed the woman. And to prove it, the lady tells Taekyung that she won't tell anyone about seeing Yeondu at his place. However, Sejin and Junha are looking for the protagonist, and even though they didn't find her at the hospital, the secretary found it suspicious when she saw Madam Un's family car parked in front of the place. So at night, Sejin questions Madam Un about it, but when the lady denies it, the secretary realizes something must be going on. The next day, Madam Un shows her appreciation for Yeondu's return in other ways, like buying various expensive meats for her and demanding that the protagonist provide her address to receive them. Meanwhile, Woo-hee took advantage of being alone to call Taekyung to talk about Yeondu. After all, in recent months, the woman saw her friends suffer a lot for leaving the doctor, but the man didn't even want to hear it and hung up quickly. Back to Sejin, the woman was smart to visit the Gong family house, and when she saw that the lady ordered the family driver to make a secret delivery, the secretary pretended she left her car at home and needed a ride to get Yeondu's address from the vehicle's GPS. In the next scene, we see that in the end, that call from Woo-hee resulted in something, as the man went to the hospital to see her, and the woman told him about what Yeondu had gone through all this time missing him. Woo-hee comments that she's telling him all this because she hopes the two can be honest about their feelings, as it hasn't been easy for either of them. And at home, Yeondu is very happy when she receives the food prepared by Madam Un. But later, when she is returning from the market, the protagonist is surprised by Junha shouting in front of the residence. Before he could see her, Taekyung, who had received Madam Un's address earlier, pulled her into his vehicle and drove off so the man wouldn't have a chance to find her. However, unfortunately, Junha managed to get an informant. He paid a neighbor of Yeondu who told him her apartment number and left his number so the man could be informed when she returned home. In the next scene, we see Yumayang and Dongwook arguing. Everything was going well between them until the man said he would never marry one of his old friends. Although it's something Yumayang also wants, she was upset to hear that Dongwook would never consider going down that path with her. Meanwhile, at Taekyung's house, the man mends his relationship with the protagonist after giving her the chance to walk out of his life once again, but as Yeondu chose to stay and not hurt him anymore, now our beloved couple is back together. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like and share to help me out. See you next time.